When did you start buying olive oil? Was it during the 1970s when doctors began singing its praises? Or was it during the 90s when gourmet foods finally began to infiltrate American supermarket shelves? Since 1936, the Sciabica family of Modesto, California has been enjoying cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil. They have it on salads, they cook with it, they even bake with it instead of using butter. And they don't use olive oil because of food trends or doctor's orders. Joseph Sciabica says he uses olive oil for one simple reason.
The only reason you use olive oil is because you want to make your food taste better, not only because it's good for you.
Joseph Sciabica knows a lot about olive oil. His family has been cold pressing fine olive oil since 1936. When Joseph's father opened his business, he named it Nick Sciabica & Sons. The name hasn't changed, even though more than 6 decades later, it would be more accurate to call the company Joseph Sciabica & Sons. Nick Sciabica is named after his grandfather, who learned to make olive oil as a young man in Sicily. Today, the Sciabicas make their oils in a slightly different way than the classic Sicilian-style olive oils.
We don't really have Italian varieties here in any kind of production. The oils basically taste different, and I think there is differences we can't really duplicate here. I don't know, maybe it's the way they blend it, because they do blend different varieties together to come up with that certain flavor. Our oils, we've gone a different way. We've taken the variety and kept it separate. We get the full flavor of the varieties.
Getting oil out of olives is a pretty straightforward process. Bottling varietals adds to the expense of both the process and the product. But according to the Sciabicas and their many customers, it also adds to the pleasure. Today, the Sciabicas are pressing mission olives. The olives are crushed, pits and all, to create a puree. The puree is then run through a centrifuge and filter system. Water is spun in one direction, the olive particles in another. As water and olive pomace are extracted, extra virgin olive oil is collected for bottling. All Sciabica oils are classified extra virgin. That means the Sciabicas don't heat the crush or add chemical solvents to increase the yield of oil. So, the Sciabicas have to press more olives than some of their competitors in order to bottle the same amount of oil. That also makes their oil more expensive than many other brands. But the Sciabicas will also tell you that their old-fashioned process makes a great tasting oil.
I never knew that olive oil could taste like that.
Yes, I think not only you, but your stomach will say, where you been all these years?
They got to taste it. If they taste it, then they realize that there's a definite quality difference.
You don't need any other type of olive oil in your kitchen. I'm a little prejudiced, but, you know, I'm telling you the truth.
The Sciabicas press many different kinds of olives over the course of the year. Most of the different types of olives that grow in California originated in Spain hundreds of years ago.
The olives really came from Spain.
Mm-hmm.
See, the missionaries brought them here.
Right.
Sciabica oils are not blended or controlled to produce one homogeneous brand name product. Different varieties, such as the Spanish Sevillano olive or French Picholine, are pressed and bottled pure so they can be enjoyed for their own distinct, subtle flavor characteristics. And because they press throughout the year, the Sciabicas offer oil from mission olives in the light aromatic spring variety and the darker, heartier version that comes from the fall harvest. Nick's brother Dan says they've typically offered as many as a dozen varietal oils.
It's all extra virgin, but there's different varieties of olives that we use. For instance, if people have not had olive oil before, I usually have them try the Mission variety, the limited release, because it's an olive that we press in the spring, and the oil comes very sweet and very delicate. And so it's great for baking. It's good for tomato salads where you want to marry the sweetness of the tomato with the sweetness of the olive with a little basil and some mozzarella cheese. It really makes a nice, nice salad dish. But this one is at the, what we call the lightly fruity classification, where the oil is very delicate.
With so many choices, it's important that the Sciabicas know their olive oil. They understand the rules of horticulture, chemistry, and physics that make for good olives and good oil. But if you need olive oil advice in layman's terms, Joseph, Nick, and Dan are happy to oblige. They each suggest a different way of selecting your favorite.
I'm just going to take a little sip
You see how nice and light it is?
Cheers.
Yeah. Salute it. Yeah. Your stomach will say thank you.
That is so good.
Joseph's son Nick says certain foods help bring out the flavor of his oils.
If you really want to know if you got a good olive oil, fry some eggs in it. If you like it, that means you got a great olive oil. If you don't like it, then you don't have a great olive oil.
And Dan says that when it comes to picking an oil by your first impression, the nose knows.
Your professional tasters, what they'll do is, one of the things besides tasting the olive oil is that they'll smell it. And they'll take a little bit of olive oil in their hand and they'll rub their hand like this to build up some warmth, because then when they smell it, they can get more of the aroma because the olive oil is heated up.
The Sciabicas ship their oils just about anywhere. So even if you don't find yourself in Modesto, California anytime soon, you can pick your own favorite. Who knew there were so many different kinds of premium olive oils? The Sciabica family says not to let their many options overwhelm you. They're happy to advise, to let you know whether their Escalano or their Sevillano is best suited to your tastes and your plans.